Level up your LA Kings experience with Vivid Seats Elite Seats. All the on-ice Kings action with even more exclusive access and rewards. Enjoy great seats to the game in Section 103 along with Yamava Club access and parking included with your purchase. Plus, get a free Team LA Kings shop item at the game. Score your Vivid Seats Elite Seats tickets today and earn perks on each purchase from the only leading ticket company with a rewards program. Experience it live with Vivid Seats, the official partner of the LA Kings. Did you know the LA Kings have their own culinary partner? It's Superfood, celebrating 10 years and over 1 million meals served. Since 2020, the Kings have trusted Superfood to fuel their players. Now through Simply Lunch, you can bring that same performance-driven food to your office. Because when people eat better, they work better. Visit mysuperfood.com. That's mysuperfd.com. Or call 213-973-6145. Qualified companies can enjoy a free lunch for up to 10 managers.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings. Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
All right, we're beginning our player evaluation series of episodes. Joining me today to talk about the forwards, Jim Fox. How are you doing today, Jim?
Well, Jess, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you very much.
So today we're talking about the forwards who started the season in LA, finished the season in LA, although some of them were injured, and we expect to have back next season. So we're not going to talk about Andrei Kuzmenko because, frankly, I always feel like we spent the last 20 years talking about Andrei Kuzmenko. We all know he's great. We're going to start on the guys that finished the season injured. We're going to start with Andrei Kuzmenko. He's an unrestricted free agent, Jim. And I'll just say it flat out. If he's not going to be in a top 6 role, I don't fully understand where he fits in with this roster or fit in with this roster, past sense either, this past season. And this team is so deep on the wings, and he came in 2 seasons ago, or last year, I guess, however you want to phrase it. Played with Kempe and Kopitar, but that spot has now been taken by Panarin. What did you see out of Kuzmenko this year?
Yeah, he seems to be a specialty player. Power play, attack. I'll be honest, there's a concern. He's been on 4 teams now, I believe. And he's an unrestricted free agent. He has the choice now. I'm in agreement with you there about the slotting and where does he fit. And you have other winger. It's a tough thing. Now I'm looking at his numbers and they're decent. I mean, basically, he had that 40-goal season, Vancouver. That's gone, it seems like. But, 13 goals in 52 games. He's at the 25-goal pace, or, he could be about there. You would need that.
Mm-hmm.
You would need more than that to have him on your team because I think he is so specialized. So, I would put his odds at coming back at very low. I don't know if he's going to be back.
Is power play 2 enough of a specialty role to flag a player as being a necessity?
Yeah, with where the Kings power play was, yes.
Yeah, okay.
If you believe you can bring a guy in and play him 12 to 14 minutes a night, but he gets 5 minutes of those on power play and he has production, yeah, he's that good, yes. And then you wonder why can't he be that way 5-on-5? So skill is there, yes. But I kind of, again, if you're going to have Panarin and you're going to have Fiala, is there room for Kuzmenko?
Well, that brings us then to Kevin Fiala, who also missed the end of the season with an injury. He got injured at the Olympics. The real shame of the injury, obviously, is he wasn't available to the Kings, but the Kings acquired Panarin before the Olympics, and then Fiala gets injured during the Olympics, and so we still haven't seen an LA Kings team with both of them on the ice in the same game. And, never mind whether or not they ever wind up playing together. But as you mentioned in another conversation, just the matchup challenges it would present with one on one line and the other on another line.
It helps.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine. I don't even know how another team would game plan for that, but further complicating it, we have no idea who's going to play with Kevin Fiala next year. We don't know how healthy he'll be. We heard from Ken Holland at the end of the year press conference that if they had made it to round
Yeah.
2, he might have been available. So he's
Mm-hmm.
obviously recovering faster than expected, but we
Yeah.
don't know what percentage of his full power we'll see again.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. It's again, I like Kevin at the less risky style, and I know again I'm going against what I've talked about in the past, which is the Kings need to have a shift. Obviously, not a change. I hope it's not. It's more than semantics here, but they've got to. We're seeing teams who are deep in the playoffs now who are bottom 10 in goals against average this year. There's been a shift. There's a shift in the league. It's you can get by outscoring your mistakes. Teams have. So it would be a huge shift for the Kings to go from, the way they've played to let's attack, attack, attack. But that shift has to take place. And a guy like Kevin Fiala gets you there. He helps get you there. Yeah, and I know where the Kings finished this year, and I know what happened in the playoffs. Could they have finished higher in the regular season if Fiala was healthy? I think there's a good argument they would have. And then if they finish a little bit higher, do they have a chance? As we've seen with Anaheim, who finished and played, stayed within the Pacific Division to play in the playoffs, and maybe they're going to go through that Pacific Division. What happens if the Kings? Fiala he's the guy, and I just really want him to keep a little bit more balance with the offensive risk, and I think he's done that. And I think with the addition of Panarin coming onto the same team, Kevin can stay balanced that way. He doesn't have to force it.
With the depth at wing that the Kings now have between Kempe, Fiala, Panarin, those three guys I think are in a class above the rest of them. Would you ever think that you might see Fiala and Panarin on the same line, or is it better to keep Kempe with him and keep Fiala on a second line and sort of create tiers of dangerous attack levels?
I think you could see them on the same line. Yeah, I mean they both like to carry the puck.
Mm-hmm.
They both like to enter the zone with the puck. So that's where it goes against playing them together. There's only one puck out there. I could see them certainly loading up at times. You have a game that's going, certainly, load them up, and have them play together. But I see them as the same type of player, so I'm not sure if you'd put them on the same line.
Fair enough. And maybe on power play together. Although,
oh yes, oh for sure.
I mean, honestly, we start running into layers of redundancy, and we talk about this later when we get to other players. But if you have Fiala and Panarin and Kempe on the power play,
yes,
I'm just not sure where you put all of them. You should be able to figure it out.
This is what you have, hopefully.
Yeah.
You have a right-hand passer to two left-hand one-timers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can the Kings' shot mentality change to the point where they're just going to keep throwing? I mean, did you see that clip this year with Tage Thompson where they fed him 5 times in a row on the power play?
Yes.
Well, do it. You got to shoot it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good fit to have Panarin, on the half wall or down low where he is as the right-hand shot, looking directly at not only one-timer shooter, but 2.
Well, we'll have to see, A, what the personnel looks like, and B, what the coaching of the power play looks like. Next up on our list, we're dealing with bottom 6 players, starting off with Jeff Malott. Jeff Malott was called up in the 2024-25 season, if I'm not mistaken. And full disclosure, I wasn't sure we were going to see Jeff Malott again in 25-26. He played 58 games, had 55 penalty minutes. He's huge, and he has a willingness to fight that I'm not sure many other people on the team have. But he's also not an enforcer there aren't any enforcers anymore in the classic sense of the word. But is that physicality enough that we may see him again next season? Because I believe he's an unrestricted free agent this summer.
You need him to get better at forecheck.
Okay.
A lot of that is angles because, again, foot speed is a big concern. But experience, understanding, puck placement, working with a line who knows where, it saves you a half second because you're all on the same page. But you need to see more contact on the forecheck. If he's going to be in the lineup for his toughness, which he does bring, you need him to be able to, and again, I'm saying this because I don't think he's going to get quicker at this stage of his career. So you need that toughness, you need that edge, but you also need a finished hit at the end of a forecheck. And right now, Jeff is, some games I see him doing it, some games I don't. And it's nothing to do with effort. It's just to do with some nights he's reading the play better than other nights. And if he can continue to improve there, then I think he has a spot.
I'm going to pivot from him into the next player on our list, who is Sami Helenius. And I'm going to ask you a yes or no question, and then based on your answer, I'll ask you to explain either why you think I'm crazy or why you agree with me. I think Sami Helenius plays better with players like Jeff Malott or Andre Lee, other tall, large players. And I don't know why. Have you observed that similarly, or am I just making stuff up in my head?
I don't know if I don't know if he has never. I think he's always played with those types of guys.
Usually, but every now and then he'll wind up on a line with like Turcotte and himself and I'm blanking on another guy, but Ward is big, but he's not huge. But then when you get Ward and Helenius and Malott, the tenor of the line just totally changes.
I have the same impact or same thing to say about Sammy that I did about Jeff. Foot speed is a huge concern, but he can overwhelm that with his size, right? And his willingness. And everyone loves him. I mean, he's willing to do whatever is needed. And that is hard to come by. But I need to see him on the forecheck with a hit, a finished hit every once in a while. And right now, his foot speed does not allow him to get to that point of contact. If the opposition has a decent amount of puck possession, they're just going to either pass it by him or make a move by him because he can't adjust it, quick enough. But he's young enough. And I think experience again. And I do think I think Sammy's at the stage where he can get a little bit quicker. And I think that that's not the case with the Jeff Malott. Sammy can he's still young enough. He's probably, but to carry that load, that big load body, he's got to really get his leg strength to the maximum. I'm talking about elite. And if he can, man, that's a perfect fourth line centerman. I mean, you got the size. That's what you need. He can do it.
I'm going to throw out. He has a chance. I'm going to throw out some biographical information for Malott and Helenius, and you tell me how much it matters. Malott, undrafted, acquired, was it a free agent signing in the summer of 2024, turns 30 in August, and, minor league signing turned into a fourth line player. Sami Helenius turns 24 in November, second round pick, taller, larger draft pedigree, and when he was drafted, the talk was second overall pick. This is your future third line center type player, penalty killer, third line center. Does that alter the runway for his development, timeline, given the ceiling that was attached to him when he entered the organization, whereas Jeff Malott was brought in to be Jeff Malott and kind of has been Jeff Malott?
Yeah. I would say with Sammy, again, this is very difficult to do physically, but he's either got to find a way to get quicker, and that might have him lose some weight too, which takes away from the momentum at the end of the hit. but I think it might get him into a situation where he'll make more hits. They'll be less devastating because he won't have the same momentum behind it, but he'll still be getting a better piece of guys on the forecheck because he's going to get that. I still think he's at that stage where he can get quicker. And unfortunately with Jeff, I don't put him there. Yeah, I could see Sammy as a third line. If he does get that quickness, that will be. And again, sometimes he might have to change the body structure, the shape, the type, body type.
Next on our list is a guy who his entire 2025-26 season caught me off guard and somewhat befuddled me. There are a couple guys on this list who what I expected to have happen with them wound up being the opposite. And the next person on our list is Alex Turcotte. I wasn't sure going into this season that I knew where he would fit on the roster, just because coming into this season, we thought we had the top 9 forward spots. We knew what they would be. And then they brought in Perry and Armia. And I assumed it would have been Helenius, but last summer, Ken Holland said, no, Alex Turcotte will start the season as the fourth line center. He did. Then Phil Deneau was traded. Then Alex Turcotte moved up the lineup. For a while, he was slotted in between Kuzmenko and Fiala. He seemed to play every role this season, up and down the lineup. But by the end of the year, he was injured and out of the lineup. And now I have no idea how to evaluate his past season or the likelihood of his future season, Jim. I mean, he's a mystery to me.
He's a tweener.
In every possible sense of the word.
He gives you a little bit of something, but then he doesn't have enough of the other. Just like you said, he was used with Kopitar a couple times up top, and then he was used on the fourth line as a centerman. It just, it's unfortunate, but he can't. Yeah. Unfortunately, his resume has been there to the point where he can't give you enough health, and if it's not there, then it's a struggle. It really is a struggle.
When he was healthy, did you like him better on the fourth line in the bottom 6 or with Kuzmenko and Fiala in the top 6?
I'm going to go complete with production. I would say bottom.
Okay.
Fourth line.
Any insight? This is a question I would have liked to have asked Ken Holland if the opportunity presented itself, but unfortunately I had a coughing fit the one question I got to ask, so we shied away from me for other questions. I'm very,
okay.
Literally actually had my hand raised, and Sean May, head of PR, was looking at me like, "Are you good? Like, if I call on you, are you gonna?" I was like, "I'm fine." But I really want to know what it was, because to start the season, he started on the fourth line, seemingly by order of Ken Holland, but by the end of the season, we were right back to Sammy Helenius and Jeff Malott, and Taylor Ward wasn't on the team to end 2024-25, but it was basically the same line it was at the end of the previous season. So, what was the thought process on switching it up?
Well, Turk can skate well enough where he can move up to a higher paced line, so that he can do that. It's just, is he just going to be, which is fine. Is he going to just be the tenacious player that he is? If that's it, then I don't think it's enough.
Yeah. Well, the next name on our list is another player that I pegged completely wrong as far as what I thought his usage would be. Well, I shouldn't say completely wrong, but I was wrong, and that's Armia. I thought when Armia was signed, Jim, that he would be the first one over the boards on the penalty kill. He would be a fourth line player, and he would be a specialist the way we've talked about Kuzmenko being an offensive specialist. I thought Armia would be sort of the flip side of that coin. Penalty killing specialist, defensive zone draw specialist, bottom 6 for sure. We saw him played up and down the lineup. We saw him on the power play. He was not the first over the boards on the penalty kill. He was third or fourth, even though I think he was tied in the league in shorthanded goals. I read his season totally wrong, but I did vote for him for best defensive player in the end of the season awards. So I guess we'll start there. Who did you vote for for best defensive player? You don't have to tell us if you don't want to, but I'm curious.
Best defensive player. Jeez, I can't even remember.
'All right. That's all right.
Long ago. I really can't. I think his usage was determined by the disappointment of other players.
Mm-hmm.
He played higher in the lineup because other guys were not living up to the roles. Now, again, we're talking under a previous coach
Right.
for the most part, but I think he exceeded expectations, but at the same time, for the good of the team, he should not have been doing what he was doing. Other
Yeah.
guys should have been doing it, which would have left him in that role you were talking about,
Yeah.
right? Role specific, get there, have a team that has different components, different pieces, different ingredients. So yes, he had 13 goals I'm looking at right now. So he only played 67 games. He had the back injury in the Olympics. So, he could have got 20, which would have been fine, right? But perhaps, again, it was other guys not doing the job that gave him the opportunity to be placed into a higher role. And can't fault him for that. He did fine
No.
at it. It was weird in the playoffs there. He took some penalties, right? He took some offensive zone stick penalties that were
Yeah.
it kind of goes against his complete demeanor and he just seems like such a smart, conscientious, responsible player. And then it kind of just got away from him there a little bit.
Yeah, and didn't have the offense to match it. And obviously, if your strength is penalty killing and you're in the box for 3
Yeah.
penalties, then you're not out there to kill those penalties. So you're not able to contribute in that way either.
No, I expect him to be, but I expect him to be in the role you were discussing.
Yeah.
And I look forward to next year.
Just based and that expectation was based exclusively off of what he had done in Montreal.
Right.
He was playing over 2 minutes a game, I think, on the penalty kill. And so when the Kings got him, I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to do. Yeah. Next on the list is Trevor Moore. And I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the end of season exit interviews. But for whatever reason, I am a lot higher on Trevor Moore's season based on his exit interview than I would have otherwise been. Trevor Moore is a guy that, when they had him early in his Kings tenure, I think it was Todd McClellan talked about needing to, quote unquote, find a home for him. They liked his skill set, but they weren't really sure where to fit him in the lineup. Then they found their line with Deneau and Arvidsson that really gelled. Both of those line mates are gone now. And Trevor Moore seems to me to be a guy who is very line dependent as far as how big an impact he can have. So now they have to find another home for him. Byfield, Moore, and Laferriere seems to be a good line to me anyway. But we're not sure that line will return now that Fiala is coming back and now that Kopitar's gone. Everything could be thrown back into a blender. So where do you stand on Trevor Moore?
He's at the stage of his career. It's critical that he comes to the rink with confidence. It's critical because I think sometimes he can be his own worst enemy because he gets down on himself a little bit. And I think DJ Smith was a great coach for him, put him in situations, pumped him up, got him going. I'll be honest. I really think that Trevor did take steps the latter part of the year to becoming a more confident, relied upon player who realizes they need, he's got 13 goals, 69 games. They need more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And encompassing all of this is, I know there's only one puck and you're only going to get 32 shots a game, but he's got to have more of a shot mentality. We're saying that, at this stage of his career, can you change it? I don't know if you can, but I did notice a increase in confidence in his personality, in his attitude. And I'm hoping that can translate into 25 goals next year.
I'm going to ask you to grade an opinion of mine on a scale to 1 to 10, and I give you full permission to hurt my feelings if you want to. I think I would put a letter on Trevor Moore's jersey. Scale of 1 to 10, how crazy is that a take? 1 being not crazy at all, 10 being completely psychotic.
If it's another factor to improve his confidence. Slap it on.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Next up is Alex Laferriere, and I feel like there's not a player in the last few years of Kings history that we have talked about more than Alex Laferriere, where I just, and I don't mean this as a knock on Alex Laferriere at all, Jim, because I like him personally. He seems like a good kid. I like him as a player. The way people talk about him, yourself included, is a stranger to me. I think he's a perfectly fine player, but I have not understood the way that people gush about this guy. I mean, he's obviously talented. He produces. He can play center or wing. He had 21 goals this season. New career high for his third year in the league. He had 44 points, also a career high. What is the likelihood that we see him at center next season?
The likelihood is dependent on what's out there.
Yeah.
And again, it's not internal. It's not going to be from within the organization. It's going to be external. And can someone be added to help in that area? If not, it might be a situation where they have to put him at center. And of course, the way he played at the end of the year, you don't want to change that, right?
Right.
That's a 30-goal pace, the way he played at the end.
No, 100%.
And if he does get the 30 goals, then, Jess, I think you change your thought, because now then the production meets the eyeball test. The eyeball test is, this is a solid hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that coaches look at and go, okay, we can use him, but he needs 30. I've said that, but he needs 30. 21 is okay. If this group, he's in that middle group, right? And that's the group that has to improve by themselves. You're improving your team because those players are getting better, as opposed to bringing in players, getting free agents, trades. You're getting better from within. And I just think that he has it. He has the opportunity. He has the skill. He has the tools. And I think he will get there.
How much does stability play a role on young players? Because, like, Laferriere, there's a couple guys on the roster. We already talked about some of them, Turcotte, Armia, whatever. Laferriere, particularly, who played all over the lineup. On any given night, Laferriere could have been your number one center. He could have been your second line wing. He could have been your third line center. He could have been on the power play. He could have been on the penalty kill. He could have been on neither. Just all over the place. How good will it be for him to try and reach 30 goals if next season he has a spot in the lineup, an established role, he knows what he's going to be night in, night out, and he can just focus on that game?
Yeah, I think that's big. I think that's big for if he's going to get to 30 again. That's a big jump, right?
Sure.
That's a 50% increase. He's got to. That would help. That would certainly help. Again, we don't know. We don't know what the makeup's going to be. It can't be what it is now.
Yeah,
because you have no centerman.
Right.
So that's where the addition has to be. And like I say, if he does have to fall into that center position, then it's helping the team, but it's probably hurting him.
Next up is Quinton Byfield. And Quinton Byfield is, as of the time of this recording, 23 years old. He'll be 24 in August. When does youth stop being a part of the conversation about Quinton Byfield?
Now.
Okay.
Yes, last year.
All right.
No, I mean it's he's there now, and he is the guy. But if you take his worst games and put them with his best games, I don't know if there's a bigger gap. To use Alex Laferriere, if you took his worst game and his best game, there's not much of a gap there. It's pretty there. It's there. Does he have a ceiling like Byfield? No. No one does.
Yeah.
No one. He's 6'5", 225. No one has the skill, the foot speed. It's back to two words: shot mentality. If he wants to be the most exciting player, he can be. But if he wants to be the most productive player, he's got to start wanting it, wanting those goals. That he needs to want that, because the team needs that from him.
it's 2 years in a row now where his offense shows up in the back stretch, for the playoff
Yeah.
push. When DJ Smith was named interim head coach, he talked about the looming specter of the loss to the Oilers in the previous season's playoffs. I'm still not sure what to make of that or what to think of it, but do you think that perhaps that shadow fell harder on Quentin Byfield than other players?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And I do, but Jesse, on our first, I did a podcast with you at the beginning of last year. And I said, my biggest concern is what happened in the playoffs last year, being a dark cloud. I didn't use those words, but filtering down, hanging around. I felt that was the biggest challenge for the group, and they did not overcome that.
No,
they did not. And then QB, of course, the non-clear in the game where the Kings had the lead, the goaltender pulled. That's hard. But now, like you were saying, it's now he's got to move past that, and he did. And DJ Smith was great for him because DJ said he's my guy, and he not only played well without the puck, he started producing more, as you're talking about, and that's 24 goals. He's got to get to 30, and he's got to keep doing the same type of stuff. And he proved on his face-offs, but he's got to take another big step there. But I think, again, the gap between his least effective game and his most effective game is too big. If he's going to be the number one center, and DJ Smith talked about that right near the end of the season, just giving him that opportunity. You are the guy now. There's no question you're the guy now. It's not, you can't take face-offs and Phil Deneau would do it. It's not that you can't work this power play thing that Kopitar's going to do. No, it's you. He's not a young player anymore. He's not.
One of the conversations that my dad and I still have to this day that I've stopped pushing back on him now. I just kind of keep my mouth shut and roll my eyes quietly on the phone. But he always talks about the possibility that Jack Johnson didn't turn into a good player because it's difficult for some players to play with another good player. And so he always talks about Jack Johnson and Drew Doughty, and maybe it hurt Jack Johnson's development or feelings that Drew Doughty was sort of came in behind him and quickly overtook him. Where do you rate the possibility that now with Kopitar's departure, obviously Kopitar takes up a lot of sun, if we're going to torture that metaphor, as him, in a forest. Is it possible that Quentin Byfield, given extra room now to spread his wings, that he becomes a more impactful player because he has more responsibility thrust upon him?
It is imperative that happens.
All right. I guess we'll not even going to get into what happens if it doesn't, because that'll be next season's problem. Final name on our list is Adrian Kempe. And I'll just start off with a cheap, easy question. Now, with the acquisition of Artemi Panarin, with the development of Quentin Byfield, with Kevin Fiala coming to hopefully back to full health, is Adrian Kempe the best player on the team still?
That's a great question. I think he is.
Okay.
I think he should be the captain.
Okay.
I think that Drew Doughty certainly warrants it, but Adrian has more years ahead of him. Mikey Anderson, we've always known, would be in that conversation. But I just think the maturity that Adrian has shown over the last 3 to 4 years puts him in that category for me. It's hard with a Panarin because he's so productive. But Adrian's, Adrian, I think, is your best player. And I think your second best player has to be Quentin Byfield. So that's back to this previous question you were talking about. And if I'm putting a lot of pressure on Quentin, well, I am. And because I think he has it. I think he does. I think he can. And I think the confidence shown in him by DJ Smith is shown everyone that he can do it. But it's not can, it's he has to. It's like, it's got to happen. But Adrian just does so many things, right? 36 goals. Okay, that puts him at the pretty high level in the league. And then, the physicality he plays with. I'd like to see them find a way to get him more one-timers on a power play, but 36, if you can get 40, 36 to 40, doesn't matter how they go in, right? Just get them.
So let's talk about Kempe's numbers, because in the 2024-25 season, he had 81 games, 35 goals, 73 points. And then 25-26, he had 81 games, 36 goals, 73 points. So same number of points, virtually the same number of goals, same number of games played. And yet, I hear you saying it, and I certainly know that I felt it when I was watching it. This season felt like a stumble from Kempe, even though it was almost identical to the previous season as far as points production.
Yeah, I think that's team related.
Okay.
I think that's team related. I think that the team did not perform, so he bears a lot of that, even though he ends up being, your top goal scorer. And yeah. I just, I don't know if you can ask much more from Adrian. I really don't. The thing that I think, Jesse, that he became such the marked man for opposition teams. And that's where Panarin will help. And that's where a healthy Kevin Fiala will help. Spread that around. Byfield, keep progressing, keep improving, more production. Then all of a sudden, the other team can't just focus on Adrian Kempe. And I think there were a lot of games where they did. They said, we stop him, we win.
If you had to give the forward core a letter grade for the 2025-26 season as a total, as a whole, what would you give them?
C-.
Okay. That's about right for a team that barely made it into the playoffs and stumbled out of the gate.
Yeah,
Jim Fox.
Oops, sorry, go ahead. If it was the last 25 games, it would be a different grade.
Sure.
But, I think it has the makings of again, like we talked in the previous, it's playoff contender versus cup contender. That's a big difference. And they've got to take that stride again now to be a playoff contender. And it'll be an interesting mix, right? It is the most unknown offseason the Kings are going to go through since in the last while, right?
Yeah, I was talking to Zach Dooley, and I said, if 2025-26 was the Bizarro season, I'm calling this the summer of I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there are a million questions, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
If I can get a confident Trevor Moore and a more productive Quentin Byfield, Laferriere takes some strides, I'm assuming we're going to get Panarin, Kempe, and Fiala to do what they do. I think there's a chance to be better, a lot better. Armia drops into the role you were talking about earlier. What happens if a Scott Laughton, they can sign him? Just love his presence. But there's some holes.
Yeah. There's a lot of ifs in that sentence. Jim Fox, thank you as always for your time. Appreciate it. And hopefully I will see you over the summer.
All right, Jesse, have a good time. I'll see you.